PTSD wasn't just a diagnosis, it became his silent shadow. Still, Jason pushed forward. He later joined the Army, where he sustained multiple injuries that forced him into an unfamiliar territory, asking for help. For those who serve, being the one in need can feel like weakness. A year into recovery, overwhelmed and spiraling into darkness, he stood at a crossroads. Suicide felt like the only escape, but he picked up the phone instead. He called a friend. That single brave act of reaching out became the turning point, not just in his life, but for so many others. It was in that moment he realized men need community. All right, Jason, so excited you are with me today.
It's an honor. I'm telling you, this is an honor. You have an amazing podcast, and it's an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you. We have been texting like crazy, just supporting each other and, coming up with different ideas. How do I get your message out? How do I get your message out? And truly a collaboration. So thank you not only for what you have done for our country, but thank you for everything you're doing to help me get the word out.
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, you have a great podcast. I want to make sure that people know about it and the message that you're trying to spread on helping others, with your story. And I think it's truly remarkable.
Thank you so much. Let's get into your story a little bit. The first thing we had talked about was your amazing daughter. So I would love to get into that before we move on then to your career.
She is my little fighter of a princess. And when my wife was pregnant, we didn't realize that we had any issues with the pregnancy. There was no signs, no nothing. The only thing that we had a little thing was that she was underweight. She was born at full term at 4.5 pounds. Normal people thought that was, early, but it was full term, but she just wasn't growing. So when she was born with blue hands and blue feet. And it was something that is normal for babies, but it goes away after, an hour or something like that. But the nurses go, no, there's something else going on here. There's something else. And it was one amazing nurse that actually I commend her to this day, that she just was the nurses of all nurses, that she looked at her and go, something's off. Like, I'm going to do more testing. So she ordered an echocardiogram. That echocardiogram, which is something rare they do on babies being born. That's something that they don't do. I mean, you have to have really high indicators of reason to pull that test. And so they pulled that test and they did it and they saw abnormalities in her heart. And pretty much she was diagnosed with a congestive heart disorder, CHD. Mm-hmm. And what happened was there's a few tubes that were switched in her heart when she was, in my wife's stomach, being developed. Obviously, no machine, anything picked that up. She had a normal heart rhythm, normal heartbeat, but even with a normal echocardiogram that you see when your wife's pregnant to see the baby, didn't even pick that up. So right when she saw that, my wife was still in her room after a C-section, resting and recuperating up in NICU. And sure enough, they say, hey, we need to talk to you guys. And anytime you sit down next to your baby and there's about 5 doctors that pull up chairs next to you, it's not a good sign. And immediately they said, hey, your daughter, which is literally going on 4 days old, at 4.5 pounds, needs open heart surgery. And there's a helicopter on the roof about to take her to a children's hospital in San Diego because she was born in Los Angeles. And sure enough, you could hear the props on the helicopter. And within minutes, these amazing nurses came out and looked like SWAT gear, with a box to put my daughter in. And I remember them looking at me. And one thing that was hard at that moment is everything happened so quickly. Everything happened so quickly that my wife she was in awe. She didn't know what was going on. Myself was in awe, but you still had to stay focused. You still had to listen and understand what was going on. And I remember the nurse looked at me and go, Mom, Dad, anything they could do here, we could do up there. And so they put her in a box and got her helicopter ready. I remember we went back to our rooms and my wife looked at me and goes, pack this stuff, we're leaving. And the doctor came in, they're like, what are you doing? We're like, we haven't even signed the birth certificate. Nothing's been done. And the doctor's like, what are you doing? They're like, we're leaving. We're going to the children's hospital in San Diego. And they're like, you can't leave. Like my wife is just done with her C-section, like has tape on her stomach, like, healing. And they go, you can't leave. Like that's, we're not medically recommending that because you just got done with the C-section. And my wife's like, sorry, like we're going to where our daughter's at. Sorry. And I'm sure any mom listening to this goes, yeah, I would be doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they taped her and she's literally holding on with tape. You know what I mean? And the doctor looked at me and goes, make sure that tape doesn't get removed. I'm like, oh, that's great. All right. So we signed the birth certificate. We had all the paperwork done and we leave. Well, we get on the freeway to San Diego. And I remember looking up in the sky and you see the helicopter with our daughter in it. And we're on the same freeway going down to San Diego. We get there, to make a long story short, we get there within 2 days. The operation took 8 hours. Heart and bypass surgery, literally took her heart out and, fixed it and put her heart back in, which you think about the logistics of that. You think about how small a 5-pound baby, she had to gain another 5 pound, how small a 5-pound baby heart is for that cardiologist surgeon to fix whatever he needs to fix and then put it back in her body. Like my hands, I just think about like the skills of that. It's remarkable. You know what I mean? Surgery went well. Sitting in the waiting room for 8 hours was probably the most hardest thing you have to do because you don't know what's going on. They're doing the best job to communicate with you and you don't know what's going on. And you're just praying. You're praying. That's all you could do, giving each other comfort, praying. You're not eating. Me and my wife were not hungry at all. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, pretty much. We were not hungry. We were just waiting because we could not eat and waiting to see what's happening. And thank God, she was okay. The surgery went well. I remember the surgeon, after he came and talked to us, I remember the conversation was like it was yesterday, comes up to me. I pretty much asked him, I said, hey, how's my life going to be for her? What she's going to be like. And I said, hey, can she do this? Can she do that? You know what I mean? And then I said something. I said, can she play sports? Can she run? Can she, be active? And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, she needs to be. The minute she's not active, she's done. She cannot be sedentary. And me and my wife are very active people. I'm like, not a problem, not a problem at all. So we limit her TV time. We make sure that she's active, running around, playing the playground, making sure that heart is pumping correctly. She was in the hospital for the first 6 months of her life. When she did come home, our living room looked like an ER. Had oxygen tanks, had a heart monitor. She had a feeding tube in. We had a 24-hour shift. And it's so funny because when you get out of the military, you're like, man, I remember doing shift work and being up hours all night. When will that ever happen again? Well, life happens where you got to do shift work. And sure enough, that's how it was. My schedule was from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I was up with her right there by the bassinet, giving her medicine every 30 minutes and feeds through her feeding tube. And then my wife's shift was from 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. I would sleep for a little bit. And thank goodness we were able to work from home at that time, which was very grateful. But it was like that for about 8 months. And then finally she got off the feeding tube. She was being bottled. And, little by little, our lives kind of have gone back to normal. And now she's just an amazing, active little girl that loves to play. And, she just put makeup all over me this last weekend. And that's the only time in my life I ever had makeup on. And, no one else will ever do that. And it was great. I mean, she's just a girl amongst girls, but then she has that fighting mindset too. Because I remember when she was in the hospital room and we were there every day, me and my wife every day, we had to switch. We couldn't spend the night there. We had one parent, so we'd switch nights to make sure we all had a decent enough sleep at our own house. I remember whispering in her ear, I'm like, fight. Just keep fighting. I would say this all the time, keep fighting. And now looking back at 4.5 years later, she likes to fight mommy and daddy. I'm like, no, that's not what I thought, but it's all right. I love your stubbornness. I love your fight mentality because I know you need it. But she will need future heart surgery. We don't know when, but she will. And, that's why we're here at Texas. Texas Children's Hospital is amazing. And they're going to be doing amazing work on her whenever that time comes. We don't know when. That's why we go to appointments all the time. But she's amazing. She's a remarkable angel. So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Of course.
I have a question. Out of everything you have been through, and we'll get into it within your career, watching your daughter be born and have to go through everything that she has had to go through, would you say that's the hardest thing you've ever had to face in your life?
Oh, man. I would say that was probably the hardest thing. I mean, it's crazy because I've been through a lot of hard things in life, personal, military, all that. But seeing the news and seeing your kid in a room in a box in the hospital room with tubes and cords everywhere, and she had her chest open and she had a heel, so they had to put a little towel, like a little mini thing over it. And I remember them asking me, they go, "Do you want to see inside your daughter's chest?" I'm like, "No, like I don't." I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? You could put whatever towel on there or whatever. I think the scariest part was 24 hours after surgery, which is the most crucial time in anything like this. She passed for about 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
We were in the room and it was right. I mean, God just does things in amazing ways. It was an exact time where the doctors and nurses were doing their rounds, coming through every room. And all of a sudden, all the bells and whistles start going off in a room. And I mean, me and my wife are looking and every bell and whistle just going off. And all of a sudden you just see all the doctors and nurses stop what they're doing and running in our room and working and doing their thing. And I remember a nurse looked at us and we're just like stunned. We're like, what's going on? I remember a nurse looked at us. She goes, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad, we'll bring her back." And I'm like, "Where'd she go?" And my wife, we're just looking at each other just and stunned, and thank God she brought him back. And so it's like, being through that, having your own daughter going through that and almost losing her and seeing everything that she's gone through, I would say it's ranked up at the top of the hardest things that I've been through in life mentally, and seeing that. But then you have that hope in your mind going, okay, that everything's going to be okay. That this is temporary, everything's going to be okay. And I just always had that positivity. And I look at her now and I'm like, yeah, I mean, she eats, she's stubborn. She plays, she dances. She, wants to play all the time. She wants to wrestle all the time. It's awesome. And I go, man, like you look at her, you'll never think she had a situation like that. You never did, and she's so smart. Like she tests us all the time at 4.5. And I'm like, I'm in trouble. Like I know when she's a teenager, my wife always told me, she's like, "Babe, she has you wrapped around her finger." I'm like, I know. I'm screwed. I know. I already know that. When she's a teenager, I'm screwed. I already know because she's just my only kid, and my only kid girl. And I've seen what she was from day one and how she is now. And it's like, obviously I don't want to spoil her, but yeah, I know I'm screwed. I know.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I have seen the Instagram video where she is putting makeup on you. And it is great. Yeah. You're like the best little daddy. And I'm going to put I'm going to put the link for your Instagram in the notes so everybody can go see you play dress up with daddy.
Yeah. She loves playing dress up. She just loves playing superheroes. And, it's great though, because she loves this. She's in the superhero phase where she likes Ghost Spider and Ladybug and all these cartoon superheroes. But then anytime we're out and about and I see a firefighter or a police officer or someone in military uniform, I make sure to make and stop what we're doing and go to that person and say, "Sarah, this is the real superheroes. These are the real people that protect us every single day." And, making sure she starts building that respect for first responders and law enforcement and military, going, these are the real superheroes. Not what you see on the cartoons. These are the people every single day that protect us.
Thank you for instilling that. It's such an important message. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And we celebrate your daughter. We celebrate her fighting spirit today. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. And talk about that fighting spirit and hard things that you have been through. Let's go back to the beginning at age 17 when you decided to enroll in the Coast Guard.
So, graduated high school, 2001. And you want to hear some crazy, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you on your podcast, is when I was in high school, I went to Granite Hills High School in El Cajon, California. And I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to cook, and I love to cook. And I was at my mom taught me how to cook from a young age. I had pictures of me over the stove. She taught me how to cook. So I was like, okay, this is what I love to do. And I love to cook. So I cooked like gourmet meals at home for my parents and just enjoyed it. And right out of high school, I got a full scholarship to Le Cordon Bleu, which is a famous cooking school in San Diego. Full scholarship. I was gifted with that. I was very grateful. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. This is opportunity, open doors. This is it. So my parents were not rich at all. We were very poor. And, I had, for the longest time, my brother would get my hand-me-downs, and then those hand-me-downs would go thrift shop, and then we go to the thrift shop to get more clothes. And that's just how it was. That's what I'm used to. And so me going to college was great. I was able to do that. But who's going to pay my car note? Who's going to pay my cell phone and other little things and spending money? They weren't. So I got a little part-time job. So I'm going to school full-time at Cordon Bleu. And then at night, I was working at the Radisson Hotel in Mission Valley. And I was the food person. So like you've called for room service, I would go and bring up your food. And there was a little restaurant down below. I'd work as a waiter as well. Still trying to get myself in the food industry, And 9/11 happened. And I remember waking up, and I was living with my parents. And me and my brother shared a room. Like I said, we were poor. So me and my brother shared a room all throughout high school, even after high school, till I joined the military. And I remember waking up and about to get ready for school. And my mom and dad are like glued to the TV in the living room and going, just what is going on? And I remember going in the TV and I'm going, just graduated high school a few months ago, 17 years old. And I'm going, what is going on? It looked like a movie. You know what I mean? And you just see, I remember just seeing the first tower being hit. You just see the ending effects of that. And then all of a sudden, just right in front of me, you see the other plane hit. And I'm going, is something happened to me that day that changed the course of my life forever? Because I had a goal of being a cook, having a restaurant, to seeing that live on the news. It just built a fire in me and it angered me because I'm going, what is going on? Who would attack this country? What is going on? And all of a sudden you see the Pentagon, and all of a sudden you see Pennsylvania. And it was just, I was angry because even though my mindset was to never join the military in high school, that wasn't my mindset. I never thought of it. The recruiters would come to the school. Not one time I gave them the time of day. You know what I mean? Because I had my goal, be a cook. You know what I mean? So that was it. That was my mind. And something happened to me that day. And I remember going to work, going to school. I mean, it was all over the place. I mean, it wasn't even really school because everybody was just so glued to the TVs. Even the cooking instructor's like, all right, guys, I'm not going to even teach today. We're just going to put the TV out. And everybody was just watching TV. You know what I mean? And there was nothing, and then I had to go to work. And then I pull into the Radisson Hotel, and that place was packed. I've never seen it that packed. Why? Because all the flights were canceled. No one could fly. So everybody had to stay there. So that restaurant was packed. People in the rooms. I mean, I remember I was so busy that night with room service, with the restaurant being packed. And then all of a sudden, as well, the Radisson put TVs in the lobby of the restaurant, something they never do. So everybody could see what's going on. So I'm seeing this footage all day long from home to college to work. And it just kept building a fire in me, So within 2 weeks after 9/11, I got laid off because the tourist industry just went down. No one wanted to travel. So obviously working in a hotel, that was the first to go. So I got laid off within 2 weeks of 9/11. And I got a quick job at SeaWorld in San Diego. And I was their entertainment, like set up props for shows, things like that. So I was going on a month there, and that fire was still inside me. You know what I mean? Everything was still on the news. Everything was still new. You know what I mean? You're seeing every single day on the news, people, they're picking up bodies from the tower, all the work that's being done on the tower, on the ground zero. And so being at SeaWorld, I remember in the San Diego Bay, and all of a sudden, obviously all law enforcement, everything was up. Like everything was high there in that time. And the patriotism of America was high. And I remember every person had an American flag on their car. Every person had waving. I mean, it was just so high. So having that fire burning inside me and then seeing the patriotism so high, that was, the first time where I'm like, whoa, like this is amazing. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden I'm at SeaWorld in San Diego, and they have this little island where they filmed a water show. And I was on a boat, and I was setting up props for this next show. And all of a sudden I see a Coast Guard boat, small Coast Guard, just drive by Mission Bay. Guy on the top of it with a gun, just patrolling the bay. I remember looking at that, and I stood there for like 15 minutes while he's just driving by. And I go, what is that? That is cool. Like, I want to do that. And I remember that day, right after work, which is I remember because obviously we didn't have phones at the time. We could Google that on your phone. I went into the office there and I just went a quick, hey, where's the closest recruiting office? Which was literally 5 minutes right across the street from SeaWorld was the Coast Guard recruiting office. I remember calling him, I'm like, hey, you guys open? And I remember he was like, we're about to close an hour, but yeah, you could come in and talk. And so sure enough, I went over there and talked. And that was my start. Within 2 months after that, I was in Coast Guard boot camp. And the process was quick. I mean, they were putting out people quick. I had to take the test medical, and it was like, do. Once you're done, okay, bye. You're off to basic. And I was surprised how quick it was. I thought it was going to take like months. And they're like, no, at that time, they were pumping in people left and right. And what's crazy is that I never thought of going in the military. Never did any of this stuff. Never thought any of that. But something called me. A fire called me that day where I'm like, I want to make sure this never happens again. I want to make sure that these bad people never do this. And so that's exactly what happened. I dropped out of cooking school, quit my job, and that was it. And I barely used not even a semester of cooking college scholarship. And they asked me, they go, well, this is money. Where do you want to use it? I go, give it to someone else that could use it. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what they did. But it was eye-opening. And then obviously being in boot camp, something that I've never done at all. I never played sports in high school. I never had any of this stuff. So that was a huge eye-opener. Just coming out of the bus, just going, oh my goodness, like your life is changing right now. And ever since then, it's been this ongoing mindset to keep serving, to keep protecting this great country. I spent years in the Coast Guard, got out, wanted to get my degree. I was trying to work on it a little bit in the military. It's very hard to get a degree in the military. It really is. I mean, you could do it, but it's very hard because that you have certain, at that time, I'm sure now with all the technology and everything, I'm sure it's easier, but at that time you had to be at a certain class at a certain time online. And, being on ship, there's stuff going on all the time. You couldn't really make that commitment. So I go, okay, I do want my degree. So I got out of the Coast Guard, I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I did half online and half on a physical campus in Long Beach. And sure enough, same thing. I was working full time as a background investigator and kept doing what I was doing. And then when I got my degree, I was like, I want to go back in the military. Like I miss it. I miss the regiment. I miss the discipline. But I knew this time, since I had my degree, I was going to retire. Like that was it. I was going to make it a career, go as high as I can in the Army and retire. And so joined the Army. I did law enforcement in the Coast Guard. So I was like, I want to do something different. I want to do intel. I want to do intelligence. And so after being interviewed by several different officers in the Army MEPS area, they go, all right, we want you. So I did human intel. And human intel, you're a spy. That's what your pretty much job is. And you're out there doing classified missions and working with, different operators and things like that, getting intel, working with, Central Intelligence Agency, NSA. And it sucks because I have a ton of pictures when I was in the Coast Guard. I barely have any pictures when I was in the Army because of that reason, barely have pictures because you couldn't take any,
Right.
And even when I got injured, I can't, you can't say where you were at or what did you do and how'd you got injured. Right. I mean, it's just, you can't talk about it. So a lot of people are like, what happened? I'm like, I just got injured, you know what I mean? And it sucks. And when that injury was so debilitating that it was high enough on their scale to medically discharge me. And it sucked. Not gonna lie to you. It was frustrating because you had this mindset that you wanted to retire. You wanted to, rank up. You wanted to be doing this for a career. And all of a sudden one injury just changes all of that. Yep. And I fought to stay in. I wrote letters to the command. I wrote letters to the Pentagon. My captain, I had a lot of officers on my side trying to fight to keep me in because they knew I wasn't out there causing trouble. I wasn't out there doing stupid stuff or, I was a soldier and making sure I did my job and did it well. And, but unfortunately, the recovery and the injury, it would bypass so many years. You know what I mean? That was it. So yeah. I got medically discharged. I was in a hard cast for about 2 years. 2 years I was in a hard cast with about 4 different surgeries on my right foot alone, 2 pacemakers, traumatic brain injuries, to the point where the TBIs have gotten so worse that I can't even push my daughter on a swing. I'll get dizzy. Wow. When we go to the zoo, my daughter loves riding a carousel. I can't even look at the carousel. You know what I mean? I'll get dizzy. Movie Top Gun. Top Gun came out. Love the movie. And I remember sitting there right when they were doing all the flips and all that. I had to turn my head, and my wife had to
Mhm.
tell me when it was over. Like little things like that, and it sucks because you could feel it, you could see it. Um, so I've had to learn to adjust my life. I've had to learn how to adjust a lot of things, um, to make sure that I still live a life that I know that my limitations. I know what I can and cannot do. Even walking and running, and I push my body. I do. I've done Spartan races. I've done mud runs. I push my body as hard as I can. Now, when I'm done with it, yeah, I'm laying on a couch with an ice pack on my foot and swelling on my foot, but it was worth it. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
push it as hard as I can, knowing what I can and cannot do. Um,
You know,
so
isn't it amazing how even when you were younger, we thought we had it all figured out of what we were going to do for the rest of our life?
exactly. Yep.
And then no,
Nope.
that's not
Nope.
that's not what we're going to do.
Not at all. Not at all. And now it's just been an amazing chapter and journey with, it's funny because when I dealt with all the stuff medically, I knew I wanted to do something of that because, it got to the point where, and I'm sure you'll get into this, where some dark, dark times was going on with me.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm glad I didn't accomplish that mission of when those dark times came over me, because now I'm using that to help other people. And it's awesome. Like, I love it.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, I think many of us remember 9/11 and where we were and at what point on the TV, whether it was seeing the plane go in the first tower or the second tower. There's still images that will forever remain.
Yep.
But you are so right. The pride to be an American was like nothing I've ever felt before in my life. So thank you, like Minnie, for joining and wanting to serve and defend this great land. And I love the story about SeaWorld and basically watching the Coast Guard and being like, oh, that calling, that fire.
Yep.
And I might have told you this is the same thing that happened when God called me to do this podcast. I was in front of the refrigerator and the fire, like I could have melted all the ice cubes in the freezer with that fire that was
Exactly.
inside me. And like you, it still burns
Yep.
today. And it's really a beautiful feeling and
It is.
something, to experience.
And, and
Yeah.
and I truly feel that every person has a fire of one thing or
Mhm.
another. Every person has a desire and a fire that's something they want to do or something they have a heart set. And for whatever reason, either because of things that are going on in their life or work or family or anything else, they kind of put that fire aside. And
Mhm.
I want to tell your listeners, don't put that fire aside. Listen to it because it's telling you something. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has something that they're called for. And it's up to you if you make that choice to use that gift or put it on the shelf and let someone else use their gift. You know what I mean? Something that you're going, wait, I had that gift too. You know what I mean? And I feel that everybody has a gift, everybody has a calling, but it's up to that person to making sure that they use that. They use their calling, they use
Mhm.
their gift, for good, obviously.
Yeah, it's really hard to pause,
Mhm.
right? And allow yourself to listen because so many things are thrown at us,
Yep.
all of the time. And then to be able to surrender. Did you find surrendering to that call, that fire to be hard?
It wasn't, I mean, because I guess at that time where I was like, I wanted to do something for so long. But then when that fire came, that fire kind of extinguished what I wanted to do, and it just lit a new fire. Going, no, this is what you're going to be doing. This is what your calling is. And I
Mhm.
never thought of it. And I never thought of going to law enforcement, military, none of that. You know what I mean? And I remember I was 110 pounds when I graduated high school. So I remember telling my friends, like, yeah, dude, I'm going to the Coast Guard. They looked at me, they're like, there's no way physically you can make basic. There's no way. Like, there's no way you could do this. Obviously, I proved them wrong, and I proved them wrong twice because I had to go through two different basics, so for two branches. But
Mhm.
it's something that, yeah, you need to listen. You need to listen to that calling, and you listen to that fire, because if you don't, time goes by quick, and it will just go on. That calling of that fire will just kind of fade away little by little, and then that's it. You know what I mean? All of us are put in on this life for a reason. And you have your normal days, you have your normal family, wife, kids, work, but what else are you living for? What else are you here to do? Are you here to serve for others, or are you here just to serve for yourself? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather serve for others. Myself, I've already been through most everything with myself. I'd rather give to others and help other people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the one thing you realized in serving to help our country in the Coast Guard is you thought going in the main purpose of your job was going to be to save lives,
Mhm.
which I would think the same thing, right?
Right.
But you quickly realized that while, yes, you were there to save lives, that there was also a dark side, that you were having to rescue people who were no longer alive.
Yeah. And that was, there's amazing parts of the Coast Guard that I enjoy doing, like you said, saving ships that are coming down in the water, saving lives from that, hurricane disasters, natural disasters, helping people that, various reasons, that need help. That you have that side. And then you have the other side where you're seeing a lot of death. And unfortunately, there's one area that you see a lot of death in the Coast Guard. And that was my first station right after boot camp. So at 18 years old, I got stationed at Station San Francisco, Golden Gate. And it's the base literally right underneath the San Francisco Bay Bridge. And I remember my first day there, it was a good team, about 15, 20 people, but you also had like a chaplain, you had a psychiatrist there. And I go, why do these people are here at this such a small unit? You usually see them at like bigger units. And I remember being there like my first week, you're gung ho, you're at a basic, you're ready to go. You're young, you're just motivated. And also we get a radio call that there's a body in the water, and someone saw a body and, so they don't know if they're alive or dead. So they're calling the Coast Guard, say, hey, there's a body in the water. So I remember we're hearing that radio call and I go to the guys who are higher ranking than me. I'm like, all right, what do we need? Like, let's go. Like, should I get the lifesaver ring? Like, you're prepping the boat ready to go. And they're just looking at me going, yeah, just get that. Like very just calm, very relaxed. And I was kind of confused. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, let's go. Like that person needs help. Like they were kind of taking their time a little bit more than me. I'm just like ready to go. And they're like, don't worry, man, they'll still be there. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no, they need help. And so when we got there, yeah, the body was dead. I get the little hook. There's this huge hook that we have on the ship, and we hook and we put the body on our boat. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like I'm thinking maybe we could still help. I didn't realize at that time that this person ended their life purposely by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. I thought it was like, a boat sank or someone, swimming and they needed help. No, this person ended their life purposely. And that was my first one. I remember standing there while we're taking the boat back to the pier, and San Francisco PD's there, coroner's office is there to take the body, identify, and do all that. Going, wow, like that was my first time ever seeing a dead body, really, first time ever. And you could tell where that person hit the water because it's like rocks when you hit that high. And it was their face. So half their face was gone. The arm was torn off already. And it was, you could see where the animals were already trying to nip at it, and it's like, it was a horrific thing at 18 years old, seeing that for the first time. I didn't think I was going to be seeing this all the time. In 1 week alone, we picked about 4 to 5 bodies in 1 week, sometimes more. During the holidays, it was anywhere from 10 to 20 during the holidays a week.
Wow.
And you don't realize, and some of the times we don't even see them. They just float off, and a boater will be like, hey, there's a body floating way over here because the current will just take them. And it's horrific. And you realize, you're like, oh my goodness, do all these people have mental issues that they didn't get help? They couldn't call someone or talk to someone and say, hey man, I'm going through this right now. Can you help me? You know what I mean? They just went ahead and took their own life. And it's so rampant in San Francisco that you don't even hear it on the news. You don't even hear it on it's something you just don't hear about, because it's so rampant. Like you'll hear a story about this every day on the news if this happened all the time, if they reported it. They did put in fencing, like they put in nets, by it. So even if you jump, you still have that few seconds to realize, oh man, what am I doing? Because the net catches you. but if you really wanted to, you could still go over that net. And, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
I do.
So it was a very, I remember that was the first time doing this, and I was there for about a year before I went to my other unit. But yeah, that was a very traumatic experience that to this day, mentally, I still fight and battle with.
Yeah. Did you ever have to witness
I
children?
have. The youngest I saw was 10 years old.
Oh my goodness. That's so sad.
So,
And that's stuff that, we as civilians, right? We don't understand what it is like for our military to deal with the things that they deal with. So moving on, then you left the Coast Guard and you decided to further your career in the Army, continuing to serve and help people. And you mentioned a little bit about how you were like, I'm going to retire. We think this is going to be the rest of our journey. And then whoop, something happens, a little obstacle in the way. But this was actually a very big obstacle for you that challenged your ability to fight because you were a fighter. And you were in a cast up to your thigh, right? And you weren't married. You didn't have a girlfriend. So you had to rely on your
my
mother.
mom. I was living at my mom's house at the time, and I could not move at all. I was in she had to help me with food. Unfortunately, showered me, which was a very humiliating type of thing. I can move and do what I could do, but obviously I couldn't move in the shower, get out of the shower without assistance. And you got a trash bag over your cast so it doesn't get wet. It was like that all the time. And it was, being active like I am and not be able to be active and just laying on the bed or couch watching TV. It was mind draining. Like I felt hopeless, useless, everything. To the point where that's when the darkness kicked in. And, hearing them saying, you'll never walk again, run again. And if you do, you have a cast, or a cane. And I had crutches, I had canes that they gave me already. It's like them preparing me like this is what your life is going to be like. You know what I mean? And it fell into a dark, dark hole for me to the point where I remember laying there. You're going on now almost a year. I was there, laying there and going, I'm done. Like this, what's the point of this? Like, what's the point? I'm still young. What's the point? And I was in so much pain. Like I was in throbbing pain. And I felt like the medicines they gave me didn't really do anything. And I was just so much in pain. Which obviously, yeah, because they tore open my foot, replaced pretty much everything in my right foot. You know what I mean? And then a few of the screws broke. So they had to go back in and it's just constant surgeries. So it just felt like I was always being operated on. The minute I thought I was doing good, nope, it was just one other surgery. So, I just felt like, what's the point? What's the point of living? What's the point of keep going? You know what I mean? I don't have anything to live for. I wasn't married. I didn't have a kid. What's the point? You know what I mean? I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. And I remember late at night, I'm, just in this dark hole where I was just like, screw it. I'm done. I remember going and looking at the medications that I have for my pain. Now, a lot of people will go, well, this wouldn't have killed you. It would have made you sick. I didn't know that. My mindset was just to end it. And I remember taking about 5 of these hardcore pain medication pills, like prescribed medication pills, and putting them in my mouth and about to grab a thing of water, thinking, I just don't want to wake up. And before I did that, I was like, what am I doing? And I remember spitting it out within seconds, just spitting them out, putting them on the ground. And I just started crying. And I called up a friend of mine and I was like, look, man, I need help. And he came to my house, pulled up a chair to my bed and just talked and just let me vent, let me talk, heard me out, gave me some motivation. And from that point on, he would check on me all the time. He would come over, bring food, we'd play little video games and just kind of built that camaraderie that he didn't realize, because I didn't voice it, how much of a dark hole I was in. You know what I mean? He would text me, hey, man, how you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing good. Like he didn't know the dark hole I was in because I didn't voice that. I didn't communicate that until that night I did. And then he realized, oh, crap, like he's not in a good place. And after that, I noticed he would just check up on me. He would call me. He would come over, and great guy. Still friends with him to this day. And he goes, that kind of motivated me. That kind of you know what, my life is precious. I'm not gonna lose it. And that motivated me, not just mindset, but that motivated me to go, you know what? Screw this. Like, I'm going to keep going physically. I remember throwing the crutches down and I just kept walking with the cast. My mom would get mad at me. She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, Mom, I need to walk. I need to do something here. So when they removed the hard cast, they gave me the boot, the soft boot. And same thing. I just kept moving and moving and moving. And finally, when that soft boot went away after months, I went ahead and just kept, little by little, just started doing exercise, little by little, without the crutch, without the cane, just little by little, regaining my strength, and just kept going to the point where I was like, started to running a little bit. I was like, okay, let me run a little bit. Let me walk with a little light weights. Like, it just all started like a little bit, just starting back. It's like a kid starting to walk, you're doing all that. And that's when I kind of kept pushing myself more and more and more, where I'm going, wait a minute, I could do more than what they think I can. You know what I mean? I could do more of what they told me I can. And then I remember at my work, they have this famous race called the Baker to Vegas race, which all law enforcement agencies come in from all over the world to Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's a baton race. So on the baton itself has every law enforcement officer that passed away in the line of duty that year. And I mean, this is a huge race. You Google it, Baker to Vegas. It's a huge thing that they do every year. Well, they do this race every year, and they organize it. They ask me, they go, hey, Jason, do you want to participate? I'm like, yeah, I could help support, because there's support staff, drivers, radios, all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do that. To be support. And then about a month before they're about to go, one of the few runners dropped out. And she comes up to me and she goes, can you run? And obviously, my disability is not known, so they didn't know, And I go, and before saying no, I go, yeah, I can. Mm-hmm. I said, how many miles? So they're like, only 4 miles. I said, it's because it's like, it could go uphill, depending on her leg. And she goes, no, it's just flat. It's through the city of Pahrump. I was like, I could do it. So for a whole month, I trained every day and just ran every day on the treadmill. Not fast, just enough. And I kept speeding it up. Until race day came in Las Vegas. And I was dating my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, and she was such a huge supporter. She sat in the passenger seat in the driver car, in the car, and I had my headphones in. It was just some motivating music, and I ran it. And at that last half mile before the finish line, I mean, I was limping. My foot was just dragging. I was in so much pain, but I didn't care, and I kept going. And I remember finally crossing the finish line to give the baton to the other person, and they already took off because it's a marathon race. I remember just falling on the ground because I was in so much pain, just falling on the ground. And there's medical and EMS there just to make sure that all the runners are good. So they pulled me aside, checked on my vitals. And I remember taking off my shoe, and I looked at my right foot, and it's just swollen, like completely swollen. Mm. I didn't care. I was like, I did it. But that motivated me to do others. And I did Spartan after that. I've done 6 Spartan races. I've done mud runs. And it's funny because when you're in it, you just forget about your pain. You just do it. You just keep doing it. You know what I mean? And you do it with other people, which makes it even better because they motivate each other. But obviously when you're done and your adrenaline wears off, you're like, oh man, I'm in pain. Like you feel it, you know what I mean? And, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Absolutely. You said something. I don't know if you realize how impactful this statement is, but I wrote it down. You said, I can do more than they thought I could. That is a strong statement. Go a little deeper with that for the audience.
After dealing with all that surgeries, the doctors just want to tell you what you can't do. And obviously they're doing their job. They're telling you what they see. They're telling you what they feel. They're telling you past experiences, what they've dealt with. And a lot of us times when someone tells us we can't do something, if it's from a doctor or a nurse or even our friends and our family or neighbors, you trust these people, so you listen to them. Okay. So you're like, oh, you can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, that idea is stupid. And you're hearing it from people you trust. So it's in your head going, yeah, maybe they're right. maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do this. I'm going to listen to them because I trust them. They're family. They're knowing what they do. Honestly, those are the people, when it comes to stuff like that, I wouldn't listen to, because what you're doing is you're limiting yourself what you can do. So I wanted to prove that I could do more than what they think I could do. They told me I could do. And that's exactly what I did. I've had people tell me I could never join the military because wasn't physically fit. I had told people, people tell me I couldn't do things all my life. I've had people tell me, don't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's not a great idea. And not one time I've listened to them. And here we are now because I didn't listen. You know what I mean? And I'm glad I didn't. And I think to your audience, to your listeners, every single person has something that they want to do. But you have people telling you can't do it. You have people telling you, you shouldn't do it. It's not a great idea. You can't do this. Don't listen to them. Do it. Do it and fulfill your goals and dreams. If it's physical, if it's mental, if it's opening up a business, if it's anything, do it. Don't listen to them, because you have a goal, you have a dream. People only look at limitations. They don't look at what could be breaking those limitations. And that's exactly what I did. I wanted to make sure I broke those limitations.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I loved that message. And there is somebody, there's more than one, but there is somebody right now listening that needed to hear that message. So thank you. I wanted to ask, so now that you had drowned out the noise and you said yes, where has that brought you to where you are in your life today?
So since I've moved to Texas a few years ago, obviously for my daughter needing future heart surgeries at Texas Children's Hospital, I have wanted to do everything that I saw myself do years ago. I'm finally putting that into place where I want to help veterans. I want to help military. I want to help, first responders and things like that. So for the last 2 years, I've built together a group of veterans, non-veterans, law enforcement, military, and we play poker in my garage twice a month. And once, twice a month, depending on what's going on, sometimes more, during the holidays, depending on what's going on. And I provide all the food. I order some pizzas and wings, and I provide all the drinks, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, water. I have a TV in there. We watch whatever's going on, sports, fights, whatever. And I have the poker table, and it's a professional, nice poker table. And we all gather around. Sometimes I get 10, sometimes I get 15, depending on who wants to come. And the most I could fit is like 16, 17 before it gets a little squishy in there. But we play poker. We have fun. We talk, we joke, we laugh. And it gives men an opportunity to share anything that they need to share with. If they want to open up about anything, great. And there's men there to help you. You don't need to. There's no pressure. You know what I mean? If you just want to come for fun and camaraderie, go right ahead. And then after the game, there's times where we you see the guys just kind of splitting off into groups and making new acquaintances and talking to people. And there's been so many new friends that has made because of that they found different things in common. We're like, oh man, there's a guy that we just, this last poker game about a few weeks ago, their wives are pregnant and due at the same time. Like they're both having kids at the exact same time. And they didn't realize that till there. And they're like, oh man, that's crazy. And they exchange numbers and, things like that. They're first kids. So it's like, you don't know, just bringing people together, what that does. You know what I mean? And then there's times where, at the end of the poker game, a guy will come up to me and say, hey man, I didn't feel comfortable yet sharing this with everybody, but I want to share it with you. Can you help me? And it could be any different things of mental or family or, whatever's going on with them. And everything that's said in that garage stays in that garage, to the point where my wife's in her, on the couch. My wife loves poker night because it gives her a chance to watch her shows that, on TV that I'm not really, big fan of. Just kind of like, okay, I don't feel like, whatever. So it gives her a chance to catch up on her shows. So the minute I come in, the living room after everybody's gone and clean up and all that, my wife, the only question she asked me was, did you have fun? I'm like, I had a great time. That's it. No other conversation's done, nothing. Because she knows not to pry and ask questions or try to start gossip or drama. That's not what she does. And that's not what it's for. You know what I mean? It's a strong foundation of brotherhood. And been doing this for the last while. And I go, man, okay, I want to do more. I feel like I want to do more, but it's hard just with one person. And working in law enforcement, it's great. It's a great job. I've been doing it for 18 years with Homeland Security. But there's one thing that I've missed that you can't really do is use your creative outlet. And I have this very different creative outlet style that I just, it's hard to get out sometimes if you're not doing it. So finally, I just remember kind of being at my laptop, and I was like, I want to create a shirt because I like wearing shirts, when I hit the gym and all that. And I was like, I want to create my own shirt. So I was like, figure out how to do it. And I created my logo, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm thinking this is just for me, what I mean? Just to have it and just to wear it. My wife looked at it and she goes, this is amazing. And she goes, how many have you created? I said, I created 3, you know what I mean? Just to have my own. And she's like, this is great. And she goes, you need to sell this. And I go, who's going to buy this? Who's going to buy this? And she goes, no, make a few more and we'll make a business out of it. And I said, but I don't, we have good jobs. It's not like I'm doing it for the money. Like I don't need, I'm not doing this to be a millionaire. That's not my mindset. And she goes, I said, baby, give money to charity. And my wife goes, we are 25%. And I said, I love it. I love it. So that's when I started Alpha Ready Co. And it's a veteran-owned men's clothing. Well, not men's because it's, unisex shirts, men and women clothing store. That there's, the branding, the design, the logos, everything is designed by myself. And, the quotes on the back are from famous people, motivational. And we haven't opened yet. September 1st is our launch. I'm excited. Just a few weeks away, just getting all the bugs out, just kind of making sure everything's ready to go. Working with a friend of mine who's a manufacturer for these shirts. And it's just, testing them, doing my own quality control on them, making sure that the fabric doesn't wear off after washes. I've kept track of every shirt I have, and every time it's been washed and dried. It's going on 35 times for one shirt and still no fading because, I want to make sure that it's quality, and it's great. Everything's just working perfectly. And 25% of that goes to a charity every month that we pick. So the first of the month, the last week of the month, we'll start having another charity. And at the end of the month, we will donate 25% of that. And it's not just word saying, oh, we just did it. You're going to see proof of that. You're going to see a video of how much money we're going to be giving this nonprofit charity. You're going to see the payment being made online. You're going to see all that as proof to make sure, hey, our word is our bond. This is what's happening with your money that we've made. They're still very cheap shirts. Not like I said, the main reason I did this wasn't to be like, oh, I'm going to be, the next millionaire. It's just like, I want to give some back. I want to help. And not only that, but nothing wrong with the charities that they're out there, the big ones, Wounded Warrior Project, Tunnels for Towers. They're doing an amazing job. Great job helping a lot of people. But I wanted to make sure I hit the charities that don't get a lot of attention, the charities that do amazing work that a lot of people don't know about, and make sure I put them on a platform and help them out and make sure that they build their charity up because they do an amazing job. I've talked to all the CEOs of all the charities. I have charities lined up for the next 6 months, and these are amazing people that do amazing jobs. Obviously, they're not as the big ones, but with your help, we can make them the big ones. And the work that they do is just amazing, from anywhere from giving service dogs to, first responders to helping, give wheelchairs to veterans just amazing jobs that these guys are, transition from leaving the military, helping them find jobs. Because when you leave the military, you do one class in one day of this is how to help you find a job, but that's it. And once you're done, you leave that base. That is it. You know what I mean? So there's a nonprofit that takes you right after you go in the military, helps you with your resume, helps you with job placement, and just helps you to find you a job, a good paying job. You know what I mean? That's all this nonprofit does, and, a lot of these little things that people don't realize is out there. And I want to make sure that not only they get 25% a month to help them with their charity, but at the same time, get the platform they need to make their charity grow bigger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you, you have been able to witness at the poker table the impact you have had on people's lives. What has the impact been on you?
Oh, man. This brotherhood, this happiness of seeing these men and women because even with women, they'll reach out to me and I have a few charities I work with, nonprofits that help with mental health. And I point them that way. And it's very just women only. And they've been busy because I've just been pointing. They're like, the women will reach out. Hey, do you have anything for women? Absolutely. Here you go. And I'll point a charity out for them that will help them with mental health and everything that they're going through. Because obviously it's different for all women and all men. They all have different issues and different things like that. But it's been eye-opening a lot. It's been eye-opening into how many men need that camaraderie, need someone to talk to. How many men have so much pent-up mental issues inside of them that they need to get it out and get it out in a way where it's, fun, it's safe, it's private. You know what I mean? It's not sitting on a couch talking to a counselor. Nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that at all. But some men don't want to get out that on someone like that. They want to get out on a normal guy having a beer and go, hey, man, can I just give you an ear for really quick? Can you give me your ear? Absolutely, man. And that's what happens. You know what I mean? And at the end of it, I go, hey, do you need any advice or you just needed that ear? A lot of times I just need that ear. No problem, bro. Yeah. No problem. So.
I'm curious for you. You reached out to one person who kept in touch with you to make sure you were doing okay. Which obviously at that point was amazing and you needed that. But now you've created a community. And do you find that now having more people around to support each other is just even more beneficial than just having one? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And this is what I'm trying to spread here is, my idea was poker, but everybody has an idea. If it's poker's not your thing, it's sports. It's, hey, let's go to, a ball game. Let's go to eat a restaurant. Whatever your thing is, there's a way to create it where you could bring people in, support each other, build a camaraderie, build a network of men or women, however you want to do that, to help each other mentally, physically, being a father, being a wife, and it's funny because a lot of women already do this. Women, that's why you hear that, they're just out gossiping, having a glass of wine, gossiping. They're not. They're really not. It sounds like for us guys, their wives are gossiping. No, they're actually helping each other. A wife will say, hey, I'm dealing with this, or that. The wives are actually helping each other. But us men, we don't do that. Us men, we keep it quiet to ourselves and we don't want to talk to anybody because we either feel pride, we don't want to feel stupid, we don't want to feel like, hey, no, I'm fine, there's nothing bothering me. No, there is. And if we built a safe place where it's like, no, man, anything you want to tell me, keeps it here. We help you. We hug it out. We got to do whatever you need to do. I'm not building a kumbaya moment. I'm just trying to show them, hey, let's be men. Let's watch sports. Let's have a beer. If you don't drink, that's fine. No big deal. I've had people, hey, man, I don't drink. Can I still come? Absolutely. I got soda. I got water. I got juices. There's no judging. And that's one thing I love about what we do is that there's no judgment at all. You know what I mean? Now, if you win a hand and you're bluffing to everybody and, people are like, oh, man, yeah, you're going to hear a little bit of, some fun after you. But it's all in fun. That's the thing. It's all in fun. But there's no judging. There's no discrimination. There's no racism. There's none of that. It's just men coming together, having fun, watching sports, playing poker, getting to know each other. And then the network, like you said, has just spread because they're exchanging numbers or, oh, man, you do this for work? Oh, man, I do that for work. I had a guy one time, they worked in the same building. They didn't realize it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
In downtown. So it's like, oh, man, and it's amazing that these people are right under your nose. You don't realize it until I finally bring you guys together and go, oh, man, are you kidding me? Oh, dude, we're having the baby at the same time? That's crazy. Like, it's amazing. So,
yeah, I loved when you said sometimes we hug it out because there is healing in hugs, and that is underestimated. Yeah, it is underestimated. Exactly. Is there anything I have forgot to ask or something else you would like to mention before we wrap it up today? Any final words for the audience?
I think the final words for you guys and this amazing podcast you have here and an amazing help that you do is every single person has a gift. Every single person listening to this has a gift. Use it. If you're noticing a friend, a family member, a neighbor, that you notice there's a change in them mentally, they're not being themselves anymore. They're not acting like themselves anymore. Go talk to them. Sometimes they just want to be heard. Sometimes they just want someone to talk to. You hear it all the time. I mean, just on the news the other day, a husband shoots and kills his wife, kills his kid, and then kills himself. Don't tell me there was a neighbor that did not see his mental decline happen, because that stuff doesn't just happen overnight. It happens with time. But if more and more people kind of started, instead of judging, instead of going, oh man, that's our crazy neighbor doing this, or his, he's yelling, go over there and talk to him. Hey man, let's go get a beer. You want to go grab a bite to eat? My treat. Let's go talk. And get to know a person. They're going to start opening up to you and sharing their difficulties, whatever it is. And who knows, you might have the wisdom and knowledge to help them, or you could point that person in the right person that will help them mentally. If more and more people were concerned about other people instead of judging them, condemning them, gossiping about them, and actually truly concerned about other people and their well-being, I can tell you right now, suicides will drop so quick. You know what I mean? Because those people that are having a hard time mentally, they're not going to go and ask for help from their neighbor or their friend. It takes that person to go up to that person and go, hey man, I see that you're struggling with this, or you've kind of changed a little bit, and not in a judging way. Just be like, man, let's go talk, find a common ground, wherever it is, whatever it is, to go talk, and it doesn't have to be where it's like, tell me what's going on. Just be like, hey man, I'm here to listen. There's no judging. There's no condemning. There's no making fun of. Everything you say stays between us. You know what I mean? And I think if people did that more, this place, the world we live in, you'd help so many more people, and the suicide rate would go down, mental health would go down, and it would just be an awesome place to live. And that would be the best advice to give to your listeners.
Yeah. What I struggle with understanding is there are people that are more interested in videotaping what is going on than actually stepping in to help. And that hurts my heart to see that,
That just blows my mind. Blows my mind. I see car accidents happen, and they want to videotape the car accidents of actually stopping and giving assistance. You know what I mean? And that should not be happening at all. So
your message that you just shared is so relevant on time. So thank you so much, Jay.
And if you want to support a great cause, and if you want to, support a charity that is unfunded, unrecognized, that they do an amazing work, go on alphareadyco.com. That's alphareadyco.com. Find a great shirt. They're not expensive. Just look at it, check it out, whatever shirt that fits you, because your purchase is going to help an amazing charity. I can tell you that right now.
I'm going to buy a shirt.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. I can't wait to see them, and then I'll pick the one I want. I'll probably get one from my husband too, right?
I appreciate it. They're great. I love them. I wear them right now. I wear them all the time. So
awesome. Jason, thank you for being my guest today on the I Need Blue podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And thank you for listening today. This is Jen Lee, host of the I Need Blue podcast. You can find anything and everything about I Need Blue on my website, www.ineedblue.net. And remember, you are stronger than you think. Until next time.